1:47 local time on the Black Sea, a group of vessels that shouldn't have been there was creeping along at 41 kilometers per hour, blending in with fishing traffic and whitecaps as they targeted a high-value Russian industrial complex. 4 Ukrainian Magura sea drones, 750 kilometers away from home, were about to attempt a strike on Russia's second-largest oil export terminal. But first, they'd have to survive something no naval drone has ever attempted before: navigating a multi-layered defensive hellscape designed to stop everything Ukraine could throw Russia's way. The lead boat's navigation computer is maintaining exactly 22 knots while its encrypted data link reaches back across the open water for information. Behind it, 3 more shadows skim through the darkness. Their thermal signatures barely register above the 14 degrees Celsius seawater. To Russian infrared sensors, they're phantoms. Elsewhere on the water, a Russian patrol boat's radar operator is staring at his screen, watching returns that look like fishing vessels. Small contacts, slow-moving, completely harmless. He has no idea he's looking at the most sophisticated naval weapons Ukraine has deployed to date, and this oversight could cost Russia 140,000 tons of petroleum, resources that are vital to the war machine fighting for control of Ukraine. The Tuapse oil terminal you see here isn't just any run-of-the-mill oil facility. It's one of Russia's top-tier money printers on the Black Sea, capable of loading Aframax tankers up to 110,000 deadweight tons. Every day, Russian crude worth billions of rubles flows through this single choke point, an operation crucial to funding Moscow's fighting efforts. Ukraine has hit it twice before, September 24th, then November 1st, damaging 2 tankers and forcing a temporary shutdown. But tonight's attack is different, and these boats might not make it back home. At 1:52, the lead Magura's passive sensors detect something that raises alarms for the operators. A Russian Pantsir S-1 air defense system, positioned on the northern perimeter of Tuapse port, has just activated its search radar. The 1RS-2-1E radar you see here operates on UHF and EHF bands, designed to track aircraft and missiles. Its detection range against conventional targets is 20 kilometers. But these aren't conventional targets. The Magura drones have a radar cross-section so small that at sea level, surrounded by wave clutter, they're practically invisible. The Russian operator sees nothing, yet. For now, his screen shows only the normal chaos of sea returns: waves, whitecaps, and the occasional fishing boat. But the drone operators now know he's there, and that's not a good sign. Then, problem number 2. 12 kilometers behind the Pantsir, thermal imaging shows something worse: a second air defense system, then a third. Tuapse's defenders have learned from the previous attempts on their facility. They've updated tactics and positioned overlapping coverage. Multiple engagement zones, no gaps. The drones are heading straight into a kill box. But the Magura V5 you see here represents Ukraine's most advanced naval weapon. Built domestically by Ukrainian engineers, each drone measures 5.5 meters long and weighs 1,000 kilograms fully loaded. Typically a kamikaze boat, with the capability of surface-to-air fittings as well as automated machine gunners, these vessels were carrying something different. More on that later. Before they can use their payload, the drones will have to navigate by way of the real innovation for this mission: how they'd be communicating. The operator controlling these drones isn't sitting in a boat a few kilometers away. He's in Odessa drinking coffee in a secure facility, watching his screen like he's playing a video game. Here's how it works. Based on recent attacks in the area and subsequent signal interference defenses put in place by Russia, the drones aren't receiving direct signals from Ukraine via satellite. Instead, Ukraine is taking a step backward and using a relay boat. They've sent an unmanned surface vessel positioned 10 to 20 kilometers off the Russian coast. The floating relay station you see here carries high-power radios and Starlink terminals. They receive encrypted commands from Odessa via satellite, then rebroadcast them to the drones on local frequencies, so the Russian patrols can't detect signals to give away the position of the drone vessels. If a satellite transmission was intercepted, it would only give away the relay boat's location, hopefully providing the drones with enough time to get back home before a patrol could locate and target them. The video feed works the same way in reverse. Drone cameras transmit to the relay boats to satellite to Odessa. Total latency, less than 200 milliseconds. It's brilliant, and it's about to be tested like never before. Suddenly, the operator's blood ran cold as the latest transmission came through. A Russian patrol boat is vectoring directly toward the relay boat's position. Speed, 35 knots. Time to intercept, 14 minutes. If the Russians destroy that craft, the drones lose their connection, the mission fails, and the strategic advantage of these amphibious attack vessels would be lost. No longer a surprise. The operator has a choice: abort the mission and save the watercraft fleet, or commit everything and hope the drones strike before the Russians arrive. He chooses violence. But just as the operator commits, the tactical picture complicates yet again. When the 4 Magura drones reach 18 kilometers from Tuapse port, they confirm that the Pantsir S-1 systems are active and searching, just waiting for the Russian patrol boat minutes from the relay vessel to send targeting information. And now, thermal imaging shows something new. 2 more Russian patrol boats, launching from Tuapse harbor. They're not heading for the relay boat. They're heading directly for the drones. The Russians have finally figured it out. Those fishing boats on their radar aren't fishing boats at all. The lead patrol boat is a Project 03160 Raptor class, fast attack craft designed specifically for coastal defense. Top speed, 50 knots. Armament, automated 14.5mm and 7.62 heavy machine guns. At current speeds, they'll intercept the drones in 8 minutes, 2 minutes before the drones reach their targets. The operator in Odessa watches his screen. 4 blue icons representing his drones, 3 red icons representing Russian patrol boats, all converging at a rate that leaves limited options. He can't outrun them. The Magura's top speed is 45 knots, but only in attack mode. Right now, they're cruising at 22 knots to conserve fuel for the return journey. If he accelerates now, they'll reach the target faster, but they'll also burn through their fuel reserves. Even if they survive the attack, they won't make it back to the relay boat. Stay slow and get intercepted by patrol boats, or go fast and run out of fuel. The operator makes a bold move that will either save the mission or doom it. He splits the formation. 2 drones separate into pairs, each with 1 boat maintaining course at 22 knots, and the second boats acting as decoy vessels accelerating to maximum attack speed, racing ahead at 45 knots. The Russian patrols take the bait. They change course toward the faster drone in each pair, assuming they're the main threat, but the real attack was just waiting for their perfect moment. As the patrols briefly chased off the lead boats, the slower ships had executed the feint perfectly and began accelerating full speed, screaming towards the targets while the patrols were led away. The dogs had chased the birds off a cliff. At 2:09, the 2 attacking drones crossed into Tuapse's inner defense zone, just in time for the Pantsir S-1's direct radar to finally achieve a solid return. 2 contacts, closing at 45 knots, bearing directly for the oil terminal. The Russian operator has seconds to react. He authorizes automatic engagement. The Pantsir's turret traverses, tracking the incoming threats. Its fire control computer calculating intercept firing solutions. But there's a problem. The drones are at sea level, masked by the port's infrastructure. Buildings, cranes, and stacked shipping containers create radar shadows. Without the patrols painting the targets, the Pantsir can only see them intermittently. Its missiles need 3 seconds of solid tracking to launch. The drones are giving it less than 1 second at a time. At 2:10, the lead drone reaches weapons range, 2 kilometers from the primary target, Pier 167, the main crude oil loading terminal. The operator in Odessa can see everything. The pier, the loading arms, and tied up at the berth, exactly where intelligence said it would be, a 47,000-ton product tanker. Remember that special payload we mentioned? The warhead each Magura was carrying had 200 kilograms of high explosive. Enough to punch through a ship's hull, enough to ignite petroleum vapor, enough to turn that tanker into a floating bomb. But these weren't kamikaze warheads. They could be released by the drone, a first for the Magura. Then suddenly, the Pantsir finally achieved full lock on the drones. 2 57 E6 missiles launched from their tubes, accelerating to Mach 2.8 right away. Time to intercept, 6 seconds. The drones are 1.8 kilometers from target. Traveling at 45 knots, that's 80 seconds to impact. The missiles are closing at 950 meters per second, but the drones are moving at only 23 meters a second. The math is simple and brutal. The missiles will arrive first. Unless the drones do something the Russians never saw coming. At 2:10, both drones execute a pre-programmed maneuver. They turn hard toward each other, crossing paths at a 90-degree angle. The Pantsir's fire control computer loses its solution. The missiles, designed to track single targets, can't decide which drone to follow. Their radar seekers oscillate between the 2 contacts. By the time the computer reacquires, the drones have separated again. The missiles detonate between them, their proximity fuses triggered by mutual confusion. Both drones survive. Shrapnel peppers their hulls, but nothing critical is hit. Now they're only 1.2 kilometers from target, just seconds to impact. Meanwhile, the Pantsir is reloading and the patrol boats have shifted focus, now only 4 kilometers behind, closing fast. The operator in Odessa is watching his fuel gauges drop into the red. These drones are committed. There's no turning back now. At 2:11, the first Magura releases its warhead and strikes Pier 167. A direct hit at the waterline, detonating exactly where the pier's steel pilings meet the concrete foundation. The blast wave travels through water at 1,500 meters per second and hits the tanker's hull like a hammer. The ship's single-skin hull, designed for petroleum products, not combat, ruptures along a 12-meter seam. Diesel fuel begins pouring into the harbor at 400 liters per second. The real damage is just beginning. The second drone has arrived, but it doesn't target the tanker. It targets the loading terminal itself. Another warhead is released and detonates inside the pump house, where high-pressure lines carry crude oil from storage tanks to the loading arms. The explosion ruptures 3 main pipelines simultaneously. Each pipeline carries oil at 8 bar pressure. That's 116 pounds per square inch, enough to spray petroleum 30 meters into the air. Within 3 seconds, 40,000 liters of crude oil is atomizing into the night air, creating a vapor cloud that drifts across the terminal. Then the secondary explosions begin. The vapor cloud finds an ignition source, probably electrical equipment in the pump house. The flash fire travels at 400 meters per second, consuming oxygen and petroleum vapor in a rolling fireball that climbs 80 meters into the sky. The heat ignites the diesel fuel spewing from the tanker. The ship's deck erupts in flames. Crew members abandon ship, diving into oil-slicked water. At 2:12, the fire reaches storage tank 7, a 50,000 cubic meter crude oil tank positioned 200 meters from the pier. The tank's emergency pressure relief valve opens, venting petroleum vapor to prevent explosion. But the vapor ignites immediately, creating a 40-meter flame jet that shoots straight up like a blowtorch. By 2:15, 3 separate fires are burning across the terminal: the tanker, the loading pier, storage tank 7, each one feeding the others through radiant heat and flying embers. Russian firefighting teams arrive, but they can't get close. The heat is too intense. Temperatures at the pier exceed 1,200 degrees Celsius. They can only watch as dozens of tons of petroleum burns. By now, the 2 decoy drones, still 8 kilometers offshore, had successfully evaded the Russian patrol boats. They rendezvous with the relay boat ready for the long journey home. The 2 attack drones aren't so lucky, having burned everything, reaching the target at maximum speed. There's nothing left for the return trip. The operator in Odessa makes the call: scuttle them. At 2:16, both drones activate their self-destruct charges and sink into 200 meters of water. Their mission's complete, 2 drones lost. But the damage they inflicted will echo for months. By dawn, the fires at Tuapse were still burning. Russian authorities claimed minimal damage. 4 drone boats destroyed at sea, no significant infrastructure damage, no casualties. But satellite imagery told a different story. Pier 167, destroyed. The tanker, abandoned and listing. Storage tank 7, still venting flames 18 hours after the attack. Within 24 hours, Russia's national railroad company suspended all rail shipments to Tuapse port, citing insufficient handling capacity. Translation: the terminal was shut down. This was the 3rd Ukrainian attack on Tuapse in 3 months, each one more damaging than the last. Each one proving that Russia's 2nd-largest oil export terminal was vulnerable. The strategic impact was immediate. Russia's oil export capacity through the Black Sea, already reduced by previous Ukrainian strikes, dropped another 15%. But the real victory wasn't the oil, it was the message. Ukraine had demonstrated again something that terrified Moscow. They could strike anywhere on the Black Sea, anytime, with weapons that cost less than a single Russian missile. The Magura drones used in this attack cost approximately $250,000 each. The damage they inflicted, conservatively estimated at $50 million in direct losses, plus months of reduced export capacity. That's a 200-to-1 return on investment, and Ukraine was building more drones every week. For Russia, the calculus was becoming impossible. They couldn't defend every port, every terminal, every ship. Ukraine only needed to get through once. Before this war, Ukraine's navy was inconsequential at best. Russia controlled the Black Sea absolutely. Now, thanks to Ukraine's recent string of successful maritime attacks, Russia's flagship, the Moskva, was at the bottom of the ocean. Their naval aviation base in Crimea was a smoking crater, and their oil terminals burned every few weeks. Ukraine had turned the Black Sea into a no-go zone for Russian naval power, not with ships, not with submarines, but with drones that cost less than some of Putin's cars, and that could be controlled from a coffee shop in Odessa, Ukraine. The age of naval warfare had changed, and Russia was learning that lesson the hard way. Stay prepared, stay informed, subscribe for more.